Bien, tout le monde m'entend.
Does everybody hear? Are the interpreters ready? Yes. Would one of the representatives of the Office of the Prosecutor like to speak? You filed a motion on the 17th of February 1998, that is today, concerning the two accused in this trial. This is a request for protection of victims and witnesses. First of all, was this motion given to the prosecutor? To the defense?
Yes, Mr. President, we provided a copy prior to the appearance today.
Bien, vous pouvez donc...
We are now going to hear any comments that are to be made on the motion, anything that you would like to say, and then anything that the defense would like to comment on, and then we can take our decision. Ms. Patterson, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe that the motion speaks basically for itself, and I would just bring the Court's attention to paragraph 2, in which we explain that because of a prior incident that we have already experienced with Defendant Tadić in regard to confidentiality of information regarding the identity of witnesses, we had special concerns that similar confidentiality issues might arise during the course of this proceeding. So we wanted to bring this motion to the Court and have the order hopefully granted from the very first day of the proceeding, so that we can be confident that all the documents we provide to the defense will be kept strictly confidential and will not be released outside the needs of the defense team. I have no further comments.
Perhaps you would not like to refer to this in public. Is there any kind of relationship, family relationship? Since you mentioned the Dusan Tadić trial, is there any family relationship here or not?
Maître... Oui, c'est plutôt l'avocat de...
Mr. President, there is no blood relation between Mr. Dusan Tadić and Mr. Miroslav Tadic. Thank you.
Vous pouvez nous...
Ms. Patterson, without disclosing confidential things, could you tell us what kind of incident has led you to present this kind of a broad request as you've done today?
Yes, Mr. President, as I explained in the motion I provided to the Court, and as Mr. Tadić himself made some reference to, back in 1996, the defendant, Mr. Tadić, contacted the Office of the Prosecutor by telephone, and with his counsel's permission, we had a series of 2 or 3 phone conversations concerning the charges against him and various other related matters. And in the course of one of those conversations, Mr. Tadić informed us that he had in his possession the copy of a witness statement that the Office of the Prosecutor had made available to the defense in the case of Dusan Tadić. And how that came into Mr. Tadić's possession was of interest to us. We requested of the defendant and his attorney to explain to us how they came into possession of that statement, which they have refused to do. And needless to say, we found that incident disturbing, not only because it involves a potential witness in this case, but it also obviously reflects that the confidentiality was not maintained in the Tadić case either. And because we have had this prior incident, we felt it was important to make it clear immediately to the defendant that such an incident will not be acceptable in the future in this case, and that the confidentiality of all the disclosure material must be respected by all parties in the proceedings here before the Court.
Merci.
Thank you.
La défense veut...
Does the defense wish to comment?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor, for giving us an opportunity to explain this situation. Regarding the motion by the prosecution, we are from Samac, In the case against Mr. Dusan Tadic, witnesses appeared who are also from Samac. And otherwise, the trial of Dusan Tadic brought some curiosity to the people of the Republic of Srpska and to the citizens of Samac. So we followed it very carefully, and I can tell you that we have actually taped all proceedings because the BH television did carry it live. We do not know who are the witnesses in our case, but we know who the witnesses are in the Dusan Tadic case, especially Sulejman Tuhic and Dragan Lukac, and what they said. Several books by Mr. Dragan Lukac were published, and we have all read them, so it is no secret what the witness Lukac stated. We know this. We have it in writing. We have transcribed the tape. If this transcript coincided with the statement that the prosecution has, we don't know whether this is verbatim or not. But we have spoken to the Office of the Prosecutor since 1996, so we don't see in what way the confidentiality may have been breached or the witnesses threatened. Whatever was said in the book, Samac City concentration camp, was repeated by him here in this courtroom. We therefore submit that this request by the prosecution needs to be rejected because it really has no purpose. We know if these people are also witnesses in our case, we expect them to say the same thing. So I believe that you understand why we watched the proceedings in that trial so carefully. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
If there are no further comments, the trial chamber will withdraw until 4:30 to deliberate, and we will resume at that point.
Vous levez. All rise, veuillez vous lever.
L'audience est reprise.
We will now resume the hearing. Everyone be seated, please.
La Chambre
The trial chamber will now rule on the prosecutor's motion presented today and will order that the prosecutor, the accused, their representatives, and counsel do not disclose to the media the identity of the witnesses whose names might be mentioned, and will go back to what was done in other cases, that is, it orders the prosecutor and the defense to keep a record with all of the names and professions of each of the person who will be called as witnesses, as well as the dates, and will submit that to the trial chamber each time it asks for it. And don't look for it, Mr. Registrar. It's being drafted now and will be signed tomorrow, but I wanted you to give you the answer immediately in agreement with my colleague, Judge Rodriguez. And then, of course, as we did in other cases, we order that the prosecutor and the defense instruct those persons who receive copies of the statements not reproduce them under pain of being held in contempt of the tribunal. And it will give them back as soon as it can. I would like to give two reasons for what we're saying. This is not only for the same reasons that the prosecutor gave, but the trial chamber does say that it is true that there is a probability of disclosure that could be drawn from the incident that took place in the Dusan Tadić case, but that in and of themselves, these elements do not justify it. As the defense would not justify a measure of this type, since the hearings in principle are public. But the trial chamber does find, in support of its decision, since it does not have a police force, it finds that the legal framework for protection of witness can be found in Article 22 of the Statute of the Tribunal. And lastly, the trial chamber considers that these measures apply to the defense, but also to the prosecutor. The decision will be in a publishable form tomorrow morning. We will now adjourn the hearing.
All rise for your full of faith.